Over the course of the last 10 weeks on this channel, we have been looking deep into the edit of Survivor 48 in order to predict what will happen later in the season and who's gonna win. And I gotta say, edgically, this season's been a doozy. You think with players this dominant, it should be more obvious. And so later on in this video, I will give my official stance on how I believe every segment of the rest of the season will play out. And for good measure, I brought in another friend of mine to give a little bit of unique perspective on the analysis of the Edgic of episode 10. But before we bring in our guest, if you don't know how Edgic works or what an Edgic chart is, basically, Edgic is the analysis of little key details in the edit that we then use to try to give each and every person in the game a specific rating based on what their edit was like in any given episode. There are 3 different parts to an Edgic rating. The first is the general type of edit. It can either be under the radar, otherwise known as UTR, which means you didn't see very much of them. It can be middle of the road, otherwise known as MOR, which means you saw some of them, but they weren't super fleshed out. It can be complex personality, otherwise known as CP, which means you saw quite a bit of them and they were very fleshed out as a character. Or it can be OTT, which stands for over the top, which means you saw a lot of them. They were basically a characterized version of themselves. The second part of every Edgic rating is the tone. There are 4 different types of tone. It can either be P for a positive leaning tone. It can be N for a negative leaning tone. It can be M for a mixed tone. You got scenes of them painted positively and scenes of them painted negatively. Or it can just be a neutral tone, just no letter even necessary, just no tone, neutral, nothing leaning in any one way or another. And finally, the number in every rating in an Edgic chart is just a visibility scale from 1 to 5 on how much you saw them in the episode. What was their amount of screen time? 1 being they didn't get very much screen time. 5 meaning they got a lot of screen time. So, if you haven't noticed already, I have a fabulous guest here with me today. You might recognize him from Survivor Northwestern Season 1, out now on YouTube. It is my good friend, Carson. Carson, welcome to the show.
Hey, North. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk Edgic, talk about the season a little bit. It's always fun. I love watching your videos, so I'll get to be part of it now. Woo!
Thank you. I'm so happy. I know I've had a lot of people tell me in the comments, tell me on Instagram, lots of places to bring more people on to get some more range of perspectives. So I'm happy to have you on. And so, you know, the first thing I just want to ask is like, how are you feeling about the season? What's your like general perspective on the Edgic and the season at large?
Sure. Well, different from Josiah's. You said you wanted different perspectives.
Good.
He
I'm
could be
glad.
a bit of a nihilist, I think, in Modern Survivor.
Yeah.
I think that this season's been fun. It's hard to judge a season until it's finished, in my opinion. People get a little bogged down episode to episode with, oh, was there a blindside this time? And that's not the most important thing to me. I like seeing the long story arcs. I like seeing how people grow and change throughout the game. And I like having a satisfying winner. I think those are the things that really settle a season in for me as being one that I would watch again, one that is a good season. And there are some satisfying winners left in the cast right now. We'll get to that a little bit more. But I think this has been a fun season with some big ups and some tension on the other episodes. And I think I like how they've been balancing that.
I agree. I'm so appreciate that you said that about like the whole story arc too, because that's something that I've always been very like pitching on my perspective on a Survivor season or any season of anything, is that I always prefer like things to happen that I want to happen. I feel like people get so bogged up in like, I want crazy stuff to happen every episode, but then I'm like, but if we have crazy stuff happen every episode and all of like the characters that I like get sent out and it's a bunch of like nobodies left at the end, well, that's not any fun. I don't want that. So I would rather like a boring season that has a good story of a lot of really strong characters than like a crazy season that ends up with like a bunch of lamos.
Right. Like you think of a season like Game Changers, and that season
Yeah.
had crazy stuff every single episode. It's not one of my favorite seasons.
No,
No offense
exactly.
to Game Changers, right?
Like, like the Malcolm vote out crazy, but I was like crying and
Yeah.
devastated. Like that wasn't a good thing.
No, I wanted to see him play longer too. The
Sari,
only
like,
why like the crazy moment of her being eliminated with no votes, not as entertaining to me as maybe some other Survivor viewers.
exactly. If it was like if Choi Zan got out in that moment, okay, but no big deal. But
Yeah. That's maybe one hangup I've had with this season, and it's just the way that the cards fell. Is so much of the story in the beginning of the game and the pre-merge was on players that are gone now. Almost the entire Vula tribe has been eliminated. We didn't get to really see their stories wrap up, even though we had so much build-up for it, and that felt like a little bit of a letdown. And I think that that's a challenge with the three tribe format sometimes. I think that's a challenge when you take away the rice and the flant of a tribe that loses as they keep losing. We've seen it a bunch of times. So I don't love punishing losers and making them lose more and more and more in Survivor. I think it sets us up for these situations where the second half of the season has felt like a completely different one to me. I enjoyed the first one. I'm enjoying the second one, but there's a pretty big disconnect, I think.
yeah, I agree because even I feel like the stuff on the other tribes in the pre-merge, like we got a lot of focus on the California girls and a lot of focus on
Right.
the Siva 4, and then neither of those alliances meant anything once we hit the
No,
merge.
no, because they did never really go to a vote together in the
Yeah.
beginning. They got split up before that happened, and so they have to say this is the alliance that far. But it didn't matter at all. The real story of the season started at the swap, and that's been a fun one, and I've liked that. But it's challenging, I think.
Yeah,
I
it
want to see
definitely.
all the tribes go. I want to
Say
see
that again.
each of them go to tribal council in the beginning.
Yeah. I think that was a big benefit of last season. That
Yeah.
it definitely felt like we got to see, good stuff from every side. And it reminds me a little bit of 45 in the sense that it was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Emily and Caleb, they came out of this tribe and they're gonna go all the way. And oh, Caleb put the shot in the dark, yes. And then oh, Caleb's gone already instantly. And it's like okay, we still got Emily, and oh, Emily's out at the final 7. It's like that's not far enough. That wasn't enough.
They were too damn charming, and people are catching on in Survivor that if you let someone with a really great story who survived their first tribe linger, sometimes they make a push at the end and they beat your ass. And so I think it's pretty smart to vote those people out. If I'm on the island, I'm doing the same thing, but it's not really great for the longitudinal story, which is my favorite part of Survivor.
Yeah. So talking about this episode, analysis of
Yeah.
this episode, how did you feel about this specific episode, what it meant for the season?
Oh,
And the
I think
Edgic
that a
of it.
lot of listen, if you get into the internet circles that I'm in, all right, people will say that this episode was a dud. They'll say that this episode was bad and then nothing happened. And I think that that's not true. I think that there wasn't a particularly dramatic elimination, but I think we saw a lot of setup for future episodes in this episode that will be fun to explore and see kind of come to fruition. This conversation with Kyle and Kamilla, where he's trying to let her do her own thing, but he still feels a bond to her, that's going to reach a breaking point sometime soon. And I'm excited to see what happens there. You have to lay the groundwork for those types of big moments a couple of episodes before. I'm also not somebody who needs every single vote to be a blindside. I like when the alliance sticks together sometimes. Otherwise, what's the point of having one? Now, a lot of people are up in arms about this alliance being too loyal to one another. And I'm like, okay, we have a lot of time left. We'll see what happens. If it really is 3 of the 4 of them in the end, it will have been a pretty straightforward season and maybe not the most dramatic one. And I get that. But it has been a while since an alliance has actually stayed loyal to one another. And it just kind of so happens that that's what's falling into place here, though I don't think that's how it's going to finish. And that's what I'm looking forward to. So as far as this episode goes, I mean, there was this question mark in people's heads. Is there going to be a 4-on-4? I think the editors really built up for us what that conflict would look like. And then it didn't happen. But we at least got to sample it and see a little bit of a taste of it. But when you got people like Mitch in the tribe who aren't willing to go to rocks for people they don't trust, you're not going to have the big dramatic outcome that people love in Survivor. And so, beggars can't be choosers.
Mm-hmm. I think that I feel like we got such an immediate reversal. Whereas last week, do people forget the Alliance did turn on themselves? We did get a big blindside last week. It's not like this. It's not like it's been easy votes every time. And all of a sudden, it's like last week, people were like, yes, there's hope for the season. The season redeemed itself. And then now this week, we get one more easy vote. And they're like, now it's terrible. Worst season ever. I'm like, well, they voted out David. He's the one that you really had the problem with. Like,
and they built up David for 3 episodes, getting him progressively more of this villain edit, this negative edit, and got the viewers to be like, oh, I wish it was tonight. Oh, I wish it was tonight. And then when it finally happened, it was so satisfying. I'm actually a big fan of David. I think he had a lot of good Survivor instincts and very poor Survivor execution. But it's that growth arc with that ending that makes things so satisfying. And we're going to see another one right here. And we're in the building stages of it, I think.
I think also, like Survivor 45 was like a very beloved season. And that was an alliance that just basically steamrolled until the final 6. And we're not even to the final 6 yet. Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if the 4-person alliance in this season breaks up before that one did in 45. Like I said, it's very dependent on who wins the season because people love D. I love D. And so they look back on that season fondly. And I think that if people love the winner of this season, which if it's someone like Kyle, I think he will be pretty beloved. Or someone like Kamilla, who she's not in the 4, but I could see her having a path. And people will look back on this as a fun season that they would watch again because it's just a little bit of a slower burn.
I will say the one good thing that I have enjoyed seeing people say about hating this season is that people are finally starting to appreciate Survivor 43.
Yeah,
it's not the worst new era anymore. Even people saying 44 is worse than it now. I'm like, finally.
Well, I gotta say, this is before I didn't watch Survivor 44. I couldn't watch Survivor 44. Carson was on Survivor 44. He's my biggest op. That's a joke. But I actually couldn't watch. You're like, it's hard to watch someone else live your dream. It's even harder to watch you live your dream. So I was like, that guy's got my name in my face, and he works for the government. I was like, I gotta stop. But as far as 43 goes, great season that people dog on because they don't like the winner. It's like it's so dependent for me.
Yeah. So excited to see where it ends. So to get into the Edgic ratings for the episode, let's talk about our fallen angel here, Star. What a great episode for Star. I had a blast with Star in this episode.
I've had a blast every episode they gave content to Star. And it hasn't been every episode. There have been plenty that they have under-edited the humor and the personality that Star brought to this season. And I had a little bit of a twinge in my gut feeling when I saw a lot of her at the beginning of the episode that we were going to lose her today. Because I love Star, and I probably would have preferred Star to stay over Mary. And it's just one of those situations where when someone's going home, they give them a kind of hurrah in their exit episode, and I was picking up on that throughout it.
I picked up on it before the episode, even with the commercials that were very Star-focused commercials, and I thought, oh, it seems like Star's going home this week.
It was more satisfying with Star here this deep into the game to have one of those last hurrah episodes than it is sometimes with someone who I think goes home right away, where they try to squish their entire story and all their personality into one episode. And it's like, okay, we didn't grow to love you over the course of time, so I don't have that same type of connection. With Star, we've had a couple of bits and pieces throughout this season on different episodes where we've really seen glimpses into what Star was bringing to the table. And it was a great cherry on top for Star, who wasn't the strategic mastermind of the season, but I was really glad that they were there.
And last week, I did predict that Mary would go out this week. But I do think I saw a lot of people predicting Star as a losing finalist on Reddit and whatnot. And I kind of pushed back on that. I was like, I don't even think Star is getting enough of an edit to even make it that far. So I'm not super surprised to see Star go out in this moment. Edit wise, I'm sad. But
I'm sad too. You could tell Star wasn't long for the game when, people like Eva are still throwing out Star's name despite their history together and they're making up. I could see Star being a losing finalist if Eva was like, I'm pulling Star under my wing. I got Star as a vote, like a different conversation, but that's not
mhm,
what was happening.
mhm. So, what are we
Yeah.
thinking for a rating for Star in this episode? Any
Definitely a
thoughts?
positive. Definitely a positive rating for sure. I would
Hmm.
venture to say even like a P2. With how much maybe I'm biased for Star, but I think we got the rap right. We got some confessionals at Tribal. Um, I think we got a lot of content that was like speaking to Star's true character, and so I think she was very visible and complex. I think because we got some depth to her
Hmm.
not being willing to throw her shot in the dark and standing on her values. So I think we could probably give complex positive. I don't know. What do you think?
I, I think I agree. I think that this was a episode that went in a lot of directions for Star,
Yeah.
and I think I might lean more mixed because I do think we
You
still got a lot of people talking very badly about Star. A lot of Star's chaotic. Mitch
know,
saying, "I don't want to work with Star. She's the biggest joke in the game." Uh,
mm,
there was a lot of Star bashing from Star in confessional. Great, absolute
yeah.
gold, positivity galore. But from what we heard from other people, I do think there was a lot of reasoning that they had to give as to why Star was getting voted out, which makes me think it
To
might be
me,
mixed.
maybe I've got a hesitation on that because I think in Survivor, when you have an easy vote, you have to justify it somehow.
Mm.
And I didn't feel like a lot of their gripes were super well founded. Maybe I just disagreed, and so I let it in one ear and out the other. But I think you're right that as far as like screen time goes, people justified their vote for Star in a number of different ways in order
Mm-hmm.
to make it feel good to themselves to write her
Yeah.
name down.
So
But we could do mixed
I
just
would.
because of that.
I wonder how often people get. Have I given anyone a positive rating in their boot episode? I haven't. I don't think. I feel like that's not super common.
Well, that's because they have to justify it for
Yeah.
some reason why they're going home. And if people are just loving this player on the island, they're not going to go home. you
Yeah.
know. But I think as far as boot episodes go, Star got a very gracious exit from the editing team. I think in what they chose to involve in the episode.
What do you think of that? Complex personality mixed four.
Yeah, yeah, I think that that's reasonable. I mean, that's we're comparing it to Say though, right? Do you think that Say and Star got the same edit on their boot?
Hmm. That's tough. I don't know.
Right? I mean, another scenario where they were
It's tough
just
because
rapid.
I think that Star. I feel like in a way Star had both more positivity and more negativity in her
Hmm.
boot episode.
Hmm.
Because I still
Okay.
feel like I feel like I can't go fully positive because I still feel like there was like a lot of talking
Sure.
bad about Star, and there's a difference between like when like a villain is talking bad about someone versus like a hero, and I felt like there was a lot of
Mhm.
like heroes talking bad
Sure.
about Star in this episode.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh,
I think mixed is reasonable. I was just posing a question to you since I
no, no,
thought,
no. I'm listen. I said this with Josiah. I might not listen to you all the time. I might not like agree with you, but like I love to have the pushback so I can give a reason to explain myself more.
it's your show, North.
So, all right. So finally, we got someone booted from the bottom of the alphabet. So we can go up to our top person, which at this point is Eva, and then go all the way down alphabetically through the
Yeah.
rankings.
Hmm.
So, what do you think about Eva in this episode?
Man, I I think of the core four alliance, Eva was surprisingly less prominent this week compared to some of the other players in that alliance. We saw a lot of Joe, we saw a lot of Kyle, we even got a lot of input from like Mitch in this
Mm-hmm.
episode. And I feel like Eva, her confessionals were pretty restricted to, I trust these guys and I'm going to vote with them. We didn't get that edge that we got in the last episode where she was the mediator. She was the one keeping things together.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was still doing that out on the island, but I don't think we saw it as much
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the episode. I think that she actually got uh, brought in a more one-dimensional direction in this episode, where they just kind of said, "This is where she is, and she's locked, so we don't have to hear her thoughts because that's clear as day." And it just
Mm-hmm.
takes one confessional or two to really understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess maybe a little bit of talk like when she went on the reward and like how she like
She got the whipped
experienced.
cream thrown in her face.
Yeah, like there's some like playfulness and some silliness, but like in
Yeah.
a strategic sense, I don't know that we really saw her as the master strategist of this
Mm-hmm.
episode, other than saying Star's name, and Star's the one that ends up going.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a cool down episode in a sense
Yeah.
for Eva. You know, she had like
Mhm.
16 confessionals last week, or like a super
Yeah.
high number.
Mhm.
Actually, we have the confessional chart here. We can take a look at it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so
It's
last week
two,
16,
right? Like
this week
that's
2.
what I was picking up on.
Yeah, so I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it's like in terms of like Eva's overall edit, I think that this episode was fine, especially since she had such a big episode last week.
Right.
It makes sense that this one
Mhm.
would be a little bit lesser. I think also
Yeah.
generally last week I was like, oh my gosh, all the content is on the strong four, and the 4 people that aren't in the 4 aren't getting nothing at all. And then I felt
Right.
like this week was kind of like a reverse. That I felt like this
Right.
episode was much more focused on Mitch
Mhm.
and Star and Mary and
Yeah.
Kamilla, and the
Yeah.
strong 4 had varying degrees of visibility, but like generally lesser than what I would have normally expected. So
Yeah.
I think maybe we could even go middle of the road for Eva on this episode.
I agree
Uh,
with that.
do you
I
have
think
any
that
opinion on tone?
on tone, I think it's still positive. If anything, it's neutral. The tone that she's receiving. They are not the villains in this episode for voting out someone on the bottom, even though Twitter and Reddit disagree. In the edit, they're still being built up, this alliance, as a hero alliance who had a bad egg in their basket in David, right? That they had to excise.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think that it was, maybe a positive edit for Eva, potentially just neutral.
Maybe we're grabbing one of these.
I mean, I think maybe even the last number is how visible they are, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even a 2. I mean, she got 2 confessionals.
I know. Honestly, the 2
to-
confessionals is surprising to me because, I mean, she didn't have a whole lot. I mean, I would be willing to give it a 2, perhaps. I do think
She
that,
won on a
like, I forgot
reward.
about the whipped cream scene was a pretty cool scene for her.
I
And
think
she
that
had the
was
scene
one of the
talking
2
with Mary at the
confessionals
beginning.
too, right?
Yeah, so
Right,
the 2
that's one of
confessionals
her-
must have been talking to Mary at the very
Yeah.
beginning, and then the whipped cream. Yeah, sure, we can give it a 2.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. You don't need to be the star of every single episode to win the season. I mean, looking down there, Eva's still very high on the contender list. It's just this episode was not hers spotlight
Mhm.
episode. And I
Yeah.
love Eva because Eva's from Minnesota. Like, woo. But
Yes. Close enough. All right, good. All right, so let's move on to Joe. Interesting episode for Joe.
mhm.
I have very conflicted feelings on Joe in this episode. What
it's
do you think
weird.
about Joe?
Couple of things that I'm bringing into this idea are being colored by like what I've been seeing on the internet of them avoiding talking about how he was swearing on his kids and stuff in front of David. Like I think they were trying to protect him a little bit from that lie. But as far as the actual episode goes, we see him like poorly jury manage in this episode. We see him like think that honesty and truthfulness is the best way forward, but it's not what every player is looking for. it's working very well for him in this alliance. But to me, I feel like we got a snapshot today of why Joe loses in the final three, right?
I
It's
agree.
that
I
I
agree.
think his like his his demeanor and his heart and his honesty are just annoying the people that he's not being honest and truthful and standing by.
Hmm.
They're like, oh my God, Joe, like you're just trying to get my jury vote right now by telling me I'm in trouble. Fine. Like I'll listen to you. And it felt like they were, it felt like they were giving us that little sneak peek of a second place or a third place finish where someone who's a little more cutthroat who has that extra edge is going to beat Joe in the end.
Hmm. I'm
I'm not going to give
thinking.
Joe at the end, but I am thinking that that could be a real possibility.
Trying to see if I had this rating somewhere. I'm thinking one of these. Complex personality mixed 3.
He's definitely complex. He was more visible than Eva, but not the center point of the episode. And I think it was mixed. I think we got some positive moments and some negative moments. I don't think they're ever going to give Joe a negative edit
Hmm.
on an episode. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think this is about as bad of an edit he's going to get, which is just a you're misplaced
Yeah,
type of edit. Um, mhm.
I agree. Because like once again, I feel like it. I said last week, I feel like every week we kind of beat the same drum of like people talking about the same people, and I feel like every week it's Kyle saying, "I really trust Joe. They want to vote
You're
out
right.
Joe, and I'm not going to let it happen because I trust them." It's
Yeah.
like every week
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I mean, Joe is he must be a really trustworthy guy. Like,
He is a rare breed in Survivor these days of someone who's got that bravado, but is so adored and loved that people are willing to completely look past that. I mean, he's won 3 challenges. I wouldn't be shocked if he wins 3 more
hmm.
throughout this season, but they don't care. And it's not that they think they can beat him. I think on the island, he's a huge threat, but they're just like, I'm not willing to do that right now.
Yeah.
And that's a skill you can't teach. And I think we
So
could tell from the first episode that that's who he is going to be.
it's a really impressive game, I think, from Joe so far.
Oh my God.
We can talk
He's
about that
playing the
more
game
maybe in
David
Contenders, but hey, Joe's my guy. Joe's been my guy, and I'm loving the game he's been playing.
I really am impressed by his game too. I mean, he's playing the game that David wanted to play,
That's a
right?
great point.
He is tight with everyone. He's being loyal. He's showing up. He's winning challenges. He's playing hard. People love him for it. Um, and honestly, I think that he's my favorite of this archetype in a really long time that we've been able to see. Yeah.
I agree. All right, Kamilla. What do you think of Kamilla in this episode?
This is the one I'm conflicted about because I felt like all of the strategy and talk around Kamilla this episode and what I left with and like what I'm holding on to was Kyle saying, I'm going to give Kamilla a bone.
Yeah.
Was Kyle being like, let's let her try. And I didn't think that that was like in a mean way. I think he genuinely cares about Kamilla as an alliance member, but it didn't work. Like he tried to set her up to make the move and she wasn't able to do it. I think that she has got an extremely close bond with Kyle. And if Kyle's not here, I think she's was screwed ages ago.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't know that she has the social game that she thought she did. Someone like a social game that I respect and I'm impressed by is like Mitch, who has been on the out so clearly they're not including him, but they like him, so they're kind of picking him over other people, it seems to me.
Hmm.
Versus like Kamilla, it's like people keep bringing her up, and Kyle's just the one that's shutting it down in the edit.
Hmm.
I'm sure there's other things going on. So I don't get a super complex view of her this episode, actually. I think that she was muted and she is becoming more and more episode by episode Kyle's lackey, Kyle's backup plan
Hmm.
in the edit. It does
I agree.
not look like Kyle and Kamilla have the same winner equity to me at all. And that's
Hmm.
not just because he's in this one alliance and she's not. It's because he's the one keeping her off the table, not really the other way around.
Hmm.
Uh, and so it's really important to stand by your allies like that. Kyle's doing a great job, and I think she will be crucial for him very soon at some vote. But I don't think that she's going to get credit for it. I don't think she's going to take this win. I think they're trying to tell us that she's going to get cut pretty soon after being a great advancement move for Kyle. It's almost like and we saw in the preview, Kyle's got to grapple with the idea of letting Kamilla go because she's not doing anything to help him anymore. It's like, and I actually think she's hilarious. Like her confessionals about David and stuff, so funny. But she wasn't under the radar this time. She was just one dimensional.
Yeah. That's
One
an interesting
dimensional
point.
execution that didn't succeed.
Yeah, you're right.
Because-
You know, I guess I'm trying to think if there is an argument for her to be complex this episode, and I guess I don't really know. I was very surprised because it felt like Kamilla is the one that really dropped the ball here. She should have been able to have the influence. I almost wonder, like, should Kyle have just brought his whole alliance on the reward and left Kamilla back at camp? Like, if he really wanted to help her, he just brought her along to she can't advance the move. But
yeah.
for Kamilla, we saw like Mitch being like, I don't want to make this move because it's Star coming to me to pitch the move. And I'm like, where's Kamilla? Why is she not going to Mitch and convincing him? She should have that influence.
Right.
But we didn't really see it happen. The only thing we got to see from her was when Mary brought up Kyle and she was like, I guess the move's off. And I'm like,
right.
Kamilla, what happened?
Like, they've been grouping her and Mitch in this episode as like a duo that could be in this 6-person alliance or could be making this move. But we saw all the complexity and the decision making coming from Mitch. We didn't see the decision making coming from Kamilla, even though Kyle set it up so that she could maybe do that to the best of his ability. But I don't really know if he did. But like, that's yeah. Yeah.
What do you think of that? Middle of the road, toneless 3.
How many confessionals did she get again? I feel like she was.
Let's take a peek. Kamilla,
She got 4. Okay, yeah. I think that's reasonable.
It could be a 2 if we really wanted to, but I feel like she was still important in the episode in some respect.
She was important, and I don't know if Survivor editors are doing this because Kyle ends up going deeper and having a shot to win and Kamilla doesn't, or I don't know if it's because in these dynamics men get over edited and women get over edited when they're like a really strong pair. Like that happens too, for sure. So we will live to see kind of how their placements go and how important they are to the end stages of this game. But right now it seems to me like each vote she's further from her chance and more reliant on Kyle to be in it all.
Yeah. It's really funny because I've been saying it's so funny because I felt like at the beginning I was like, oh, Joe and Kamilla are the important people in these 2 duos. And then like the merge hit and it flipped.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right. Speaking of Kyle, what do we think about Kyle's rating in this episode?
He continues to be the most complex person on the season, in my opinion. Even in the scenarios where he's not the one kind of making the final call, we always hear from Kyle. Every episode, some type of strategy about how this is going to advance him or hurt him in the game. And I think this is another one of those days. I didn't feel the same way about Kyle that I did about Kamilla with this episode, given that that move didn't happen. I feel like we got a sneak peek into Kyle being willing to play outside the box. I didn't feel like it was a loss for Kyle. I felt like it was him showing flexibility while still being loyal and like having strengths in different departments. And we got one confessional where he had this super astute observation that to win Survivor, you have to win your jury, the people that are on your season. And he talked about how in other seasons, blindsides and everything might be what determines a winner. Versus in this season with these people, he might have to play to their values in order to win. It felt like a winner confessional to me when I was watching it. I've had Kyle higher than you on my contenders list for some time, even though he's in the mix, right? I think that his visibility was not the number one in the cast this episode for sure. We saw a ton of Mitch. We saw a ton of Mary. We saw, a good bit of Star. Like you said, we flip-flopped. But I think of the core 4, power 4, strong 4, he continues to be the player that I am paying the closest attention to personally, and it continues to be positive. Not as positive as when we got, his heartfelt story, the episode before. So I don't think we're going in that direction, but it continues to be
Mhm.
complex, positive character with good screen time. On his worst days, he's pretty present.
So do you think it's a positive or toneless this episode?
I think it's positive, but I don't know. I could see. I
I'll
just
go with it.
felt differently about it, and I just think that he's. I mean, look at that row that we've got right there. He's been kind of running
Mhm.
this with Joe, this edit, for a while now. And I don't think there have been any episodes where they've given us a negative taste in our mouth for Kyle ever,
Yeah, I agree.
just like Joe.
All right. So Mary, finally,
Ooh.
screen time for Mary.
Yeah, she
It's
was
been a
visible.
while.
She was visible today. Um,
Woofda.
the thing that stands out to me about Mary this episode, which is definitely not an edit thing, is she's sitting there during tribal council commenting on why David was voted out, and she's like, "Some people got too paranoid, and that's not me." I'm like, "Are you trying to like work backwards, or are you just trying to dig at David? Like, are you?"
David's reaction to when she said that was crazy.
It was crazy.
Like he was like, and like looks over at Cedric and is like, "Oh shit, he did not like that."
I mean, David was rightfully paranoid. He just didn't have the tools to do anything about it. Mary was also super paranoid. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. You're so delusional. She's not delusional. I think she's saying it because she has to, because that's what the value that the
Mhm.
tribe is looking for, and she's trying to fit in right now. She's not trying to stand out. But I just that thought like thrust into my head. I wanted to talk about tribal council. She was definitely not under the radar this episode. It was just all about like her trying to make a move happen, running out of people, and then having like a cordial conversation with Star about it, where they come to terms with the fact that one of them isn't going to be there tonight, and then she goes out and she gets it done. Whether like her action in that was the deciding factor, I don't know. I think people make the decisions no matter what. Both of the people at risk are like pitching. Um, but I think she was far more visible this episode. I don't know that she got a positive edit. I think it was potentially a middle of the road edit, or like a neutral edit. Um, and I think that she was not as complex as I think Joan and Cobb. I think she was still complex as a player, as a
Yeah,
character.
because I was thinking, I think the visibility is fairly high, but as you were talking, I was like, I was trying to think in terms of like complexity of like where she's at. I think that quote at Tribal was probably like the best thing. Otherwise, if anything, I got the most complexity of how she would act as a juror was where I got the complexity of this episode. But like, I don't know if I learned anything else about her plans other than she survived. I don't know.
Mary's
Can you think
Mary's
of any
so
examples
interesting
of
to me.
like complexity for Mary?
She's so interesting to me because I think that you look at her online presence, you look at her pregame stuff, she's got this like super fun personality that I'm not seeing on Survivor. And they're probably just editing it out. And I think that they're editing it out on purpose. Like I've even in the beginning of the game, when she's the last Vula member standing, she wasn't like soaking up a lot of screen time
Mm-hmm.
um, on Vula. And she's
Insane.
not the best at like reading alliances. She's not the best at knowing who to buddy up with and who to like where to put her eggs. I think her road's coming to a close very soon. And yeah, I don't think that we've gotten much like strategic information from her at all, other than the fact that she was willing to work with people who she maybe didn't trust as much in this episode versus like Mitch, who wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see middle of the road too.
Hmm. I don't know. I'm willing to give her complex just because it's been so long. It's been since episode 4, so I feel
No,
like I'll give her dues.
but even in the complex that we saw back there, I don't know that we've ever gotten a positive edit for her. Or yeah, there we go. You gave her positive there. You're right. She was bonding back with Say and stuff, so that was a positive stuff.
I didn't get.
Yeah.
I did not give her a positive. No.
Oh, you didn't. Oh, you didn't.
This is Mary. I give her mixed here.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
think at the time I was like, it was like Mary talking good about Say, and then like Say was like, oh yeah, Mary's all right.
I was misreading that. All the letters got jumbled for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that like I actually in my like Survivor game I drafted Mary first. I was like I was the first overall pick and I picked Mary. I was like I love Mary's personality. I love her internet presence. She's gonna be a star. She has not been a star on the season. I don't think. Even in the moments where they like show her, I don't think that they've like really shown her personality all that much. She's been
I was the first overall pick in my draft, and I took Joe. So,
all right,
we're both still in it. You know, basically on an equal footing here.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense for me.
So, yeah, Mitch. Now, I mean, I definitely think we're going complex. I definitely think we're going pretty high visibility.
Yeah.
The tone is where I'm interested in what you are thinking about a tone for Mitch here.
I am trying my best to distance myself from the internet idea presence that he made the wrong decision and trying to focus on what they actually said in the episode. Like if you look at the confessional where he says, I can't make a move with people I don't trust. I don't think that that's a negative confessional. I think they're trying to justify why he didn't make the move when he had the opportunity to. And so for that reason, I think I don't think there's as much negativity in the edit as he's receiving right now.
You know, I just kind of had an epiphany. I kind of think it might have been a positive tone for Mitch because I feel like we got the scene of him like rolling on the floor in laughter, and everyone's like, "Man, Mitch, he's such a funny guy. We all love Mitch." And like, I mean, that in terms of tone, I feel like that was it. That was the story. Was we all love Mitch, and then he just was like, I don't want to work with Star, and like, I don't know if anyone ever talked bad about Mitch in the episode.
No, I think Shauhin said it was one of the funniest he'd ever laughed.
Yeah.
And there's a reason Mitch is still here as opposed to Star and Mary. Like he's bonding with this cast. They think he's a bigger challenge threat than either of those two. They think he's a bigger social threat than either of those two. And they self-describe that in the episode, yet they vote out Star over Mitch in this circumstance when theoretically neither one of them are in the game plan for the ending of this. I think that Mitch just did a better job of connecting with people and it kept his name off of the table. People online don't like that he didn't swing. And listen, if he never swings, like he missed his chance, that will be something he should, kind of think about. And it might be something that he regrets. However, if he has the chance, if he's biding his time and he hits at the proper time, that could be a pretty great story for Mitch and maybe he comes up short.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that people thought that Marianne was going to win until the final 6, like at least in terms of the game, right?
Yeah.
People just liked her enough. They kept her around and all of a sudden, bam, now she's on top, right? So, I mean, Mitch has still got room. I mean, the alliance is formidable, but it's not over.
No, it's not over. He just needs to time it right, and he might be too late. Is the concern? I think.
Yeah, and I think the same thing that I said about like with Joe and Eva with the David move last week. That objectively, Will watching the show seemed like not a good move, right? And I think Mitch this week is like seemed like probably not a good move to not do the move. But I don't think that like the edit was like, oh, what a bonehead. It was like I felt like again it was pretty justified for Mitch. So
yeah, they justified it. They definitely justified it in the edit, even though the general public might disagree. I think he got a positive. I agree. I think he got a positive edit.
All right, Shauhin. What do we think about Shauhin? Last one in the episode.
Man, Shauhin continues to be confusing for me. Um, because people keep bringing him up as like a vote or someone that they're concerned about, and yet he's been sticking around and he's been like really doing a good job of keeping himself out of dangerous situations or getting very minimal votes when they happen. As far as this edit goes in this episode, um, I think he was complex. I think he continues to be complex. I think we hear a lot of layers of strategy from him when we get confessionals. Um, and I think that it was a generally positive edit for him today, but I don't think he was, in my opinion, the most visible member of this
Mm-hmm.
decision today. Certainly, I think he had less. Yeah, four, right? So of the
I'm
of
trying
the
to think of
people,
what he did in this episode. Give me some reminders.
I'm trying to think too.
He
Um,
he laughed at Mitch.
right, that was one of his
Was it him
confessionals.
that threw the whipped cream at Eva?
I think Eva threw the whipped cream at Shauhin. Yeah, it was kind of like more silly stuff.
And he
Um,
sang at the challenge. He was like singing and dancing. But
yeah, he's always had that energy about him for sure.
I
And I
feel
think
like
those are all positives, right? They're all positive things, but maybe he wasn't as complex this episode.
yeah, I feel like I don't really know. Well, I guess he did. He did. He was the one. He was the one that like Joe was like, I kind of want to do Mary, and he was like, I think I could work with Mary. I would rather do Star.
That's true. He got his
He got his
mission
way.
accomplished. Yeah. And it's interesting. There's always surprises in Survivor. Like you're like, you guys are close. You get along, and that was one that was surprising to me. I was like, since when do you guys get
Yeah, I know.
along? Like I thought that you and I were
Mary's relationships are just like pop up out of nowhere, like
right.
every time.
Since when are you best friends with David? I don't remember that at all.
There's edits so bad. It's like where's the build up to this? Like
It's because her entire
she's gonna be BFFs with Kyle next week, and we're gonna be like, what the hell?
yeah. She's got a good social game apparently. Haven't seen it. But I do think I think that's a good point that he got his mission accomplished there. I was trying to remember. I know he commented on what was going on with the vote, and I know he's looking ahead and thinking ahead. So I think those make me feel complex, but I think that the he was not the narrator of the episode like he is sometimes. Um, Most of the content I saw from him was him being silly, him having personality, him being goofy, him laughing, and like personality comments on others. So
I kind of want to give him a middle of the road just for like balance, I guess. Maybe that's
yeah,
like
right.
a bad move. He's got a lot of complex. We got a lot of complex in this episode.
Mhm.
Uh, so I mean, if you think that's wrong, I'm willing to change it. But I kind of think he was just like kind of there, and he gave some like comments on like what was
Yeah.
happening. But I don't know if we like learned anything different about what he's doing in this episode.
Okay. I'm with you. I think that makes sense.
Okay, cool. So that's the rating. A middle of the road 3 for Shauhin. Toneless. Maybe
Yeah.
positive.
I think he's positive. Look at all the
Like,
laughing, look at
yeah.
the dancing. I mean, I was like cringing a little bit during the chant, but like that was intended to be positive, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, there were actually. You know what? He did also have the moment where he was like, "Jeff, we're not taking their ice. Ain't no shot." That was something.
Yeah, that was interesting. Jeff's like, wait, if I do the exact same twist 8 seasons in a row.
Well,
So there-
I find it so interesting because obviously this was filmed back to back with 47, and 47 like did the opposite, where they were like, "We're gonna like crazy scheme out how we're gonna do this rice negotiation," and then 48 was like, "We're not even gonna talk about it." Like,
well, it's been getting a little repetitive. They should mix it up.
agreed. Okay, so all that said, let's get into the contender rankings. Star
Oh yeah.
been pretty low for a long time. Star was my bottom contender in episode 1. I've never touched last place again, actually, since that moment, but was always pretty low. So not a huge surprising loss here this week. Yeah, so I think we don't need to argue about last place, right?
Yeah, Mary continues to be under-edited, not shown to have any agency in what's happening. She continues to be surprised at Tribal Council, and she's really kind of just fighting for each day as it comes. And hey, get that bag, sis. You know, you place a spot higher, you're going to make more cash. But yeah, it's not going to be you at the end, I don't think.
Yeah.
And I love Mary. I drafted you first.
We need the Mary deep dive. We're going to learn so much, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of my next spot, I feel like I would like to keep it the same. Do you have any pushback on that?
I mean, I spoke about it earlier. I think that there's no way Kamilla's under Kyle for me. And I agree that there's other people up there in the mix with Kyle. If we're just looking at the people that we've got left, Mitch has a better, he came from nothing story being built, like the potential of him being the one that survived. Kamilla's not getting any of that content. She got an opportunity this time, theoretically, and missed it. That's how they presented it. So I think we can keep Kamilla at 6.
Yeah. It's so strange because I mean she was my number one contender at one point. She's kind of got
she was
this
so
little,
complex at one point, so complex, but they've really dropped off, and I think part of that is because the agency has changed and that alliance got built that she wasn't really a part of, and it's just been running it.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like I have been surprised that like it seems like Mitch has kind of gotten that story of like if anyone that's like on the outs has kind of gotten like the underdog. I might combat you, guys. It's been Mitch, which I would not have expected.
Yeah, it has truly been that way for the last couple of episodes, at least. I still think we're looking at a win from that 4-person alliance, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think this was a good episode for Mitch, though. I mean, in terms of like. You know, like I've never really seen it, but it was another episode. And we go, you know what? He could win. Like,
hey, people who don't listen to this and just look at your chart and skip to the end are gonna write some comments though, disagreeing.
Why? About
because
what?
I think the public presence is just that Mitch totally fucked this up.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that the actual edit was positive for him.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't think he necessarily did screw this up. So
yeah, because I mean, you're asking him to go to they didn't even have the numbers. They had to go to rocks.
Right. They're like, will you please go to rocks for me?
You know, I actually I thought of the hilarious idea earlier. I was like, you know what Mitch should have done? He should have went to the strong 4 and been like, hey guys, vote for me. I want to go out. And then he goes to the people on the outs and says, guys, let's all vote for Shauhin or whoever they want to vote for. And so then he's like, okay, you guys got to go for rocks for me. I'm in the tie. I'm safe. I don't want to go to rocks, but I'm going to make you guys go to rocks for me.
Yeah,
that might have worked.
I don't think they would. I think if that's the game plan, Mitch is out.
Well, I mean, they wanted to go to rocks.
I know. They were desperate to.
So, I mean, it might have happened.
I've been to rocks in the Survivor games. I've played online a couple of times. It is exhilarating. You are always thinking in the back of your head, I don't really need this person.
Yeah, it's like, ugh, it's scary, especially, you know, for Mitch being connected to Star, who they had a negative connection. Star made fun of his snoring episode. He's probably like, get out of here, Star. I don't need you making fun of my snoring.
Well, Mitch also commented, he's like, these people just voted for me. And now you want me to
literally, literally Mary and Star are the 2 people that just voted for him.
I know.
So it's a tough one. It's a tough situation for Mitch. Now, this top 4,
it's tough.
At this point, I feel like I've got a back and forth, and I feel like even as of last week, my opinion was, I thought it was kind of like a 2-horse race with 2 horses behind. This week, I think it's moved up into a 4-horse race. a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people online saying it's a 2-horse race now between the two people that I didn't have at the top, which was Kyle and Shauhin, which really surprised me because I feel like I don't know. I feel like Joe and Eva have still been like shielded a lot. I feel like I don't know why people are as down on them as possible, but generally speaking, I really don't know how to rank these 4 people, and I want to know who
It's
you
hard.
think should be 4th.
It's very difficult because let me talk first about Kyle, because Kyle's my winner pick if the Orange Tribe got a little more content in the beginning of the season. And it just seemed like it did, right?
I
It just
love that
seemed
you
like
say that. I thought the same thing earlier today. I thought
he's
this.
my winner pick if
Uh huh.
they'd given a little more content there. And I know that they didn't go to tribal and stuff, but I remember just watching the first few episodes and thinking that the Purple Tribe was more strategic and the Orange Tribe was more just like personality edits and commentary in the beginning of the season. And so I've always had this shadow of a doubt in the back of my head because of the beginning of the game as to whether Kyle or Kamilla was going to actually win. But it's been like 4 or 5 episodes in a row for me of watching Kyle and having him grow into a winner that I feel like it's so hard because that one hang up is one big hang up for me.
I will
But I
pick.
feel like
I'll pick up on that because I also think that like if Kyle were started on Loggy, he would
yeah.
absolutely be number 1 with a bullet, and it wouldn't even be hard at all. But it's
Mhm,
that fact that's
mhm.
like, okay, why is Kyle the only one from Siva that has been a contender for a long time at this point? Whereas like the Loggy 3 have been consistently high on the rankings week after week after week, and they had so
Yeah.
much complexity at the beginning of the season. It's a difficult dichotomy there.
Part of me says that Kyle loses Final Four fire making.
Carson, we are like on the same freaking page today. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to give I have like a whole prediction list. I can't believe you just said that.
Because you want someone you're really rooting for, someone you really love to lose Final Four fire making. They always give a great edit to someone that goes out right there, and it would fix that hole in my story as to why they didn't worry too much about making sure that Orange was there, because I do think the end game of this could be dominated by Loggy plus Kyle. And if that's the scenario and Kyle goes to, like, I could foresee, like you've kind of got here, an Eva Joe and then like Mary, or Eva Joe and then like Mitch, final 3 with Kyle getting 4th and Shauhin being the first of the Loggy to go.
Mm.
I think that he's the least integrated. I know that a lot of people think Shauhin's going to win the season. I don't think Shauhin's going to win the season. Looking at it, I think I'm okay with keeping him at 4th. I think that if I were to rank these, I would go Eva, Kyle, Joe, Shauhin.
Mm. Okay, that's interesting. Um, I it's tough because I feel like this week, I feel like last week everyone was like, "This is chaos. No one agrees." And then this week, I was looking at people's charts on Reddit and whatnot, and like almost everybody was all of a sudden in on Shauhin. And I'm like, what did Shauhin suddenly do that like everyone just agreed? Everyone just like threw up there. They're like, I guess the Shauhin people were right. And I'm like, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on Shauhin. My problem with his edit, and I want to compare him to Joe and Eva, in the sense that
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Joe and Eva have both been very shielded, even when they've made mistakes. Right?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think voting out David could have been painted as this is how they fail. They
Right.
messed up, but it wasn't at all. It was completely justified. I even go back to the Thomas vote. Joe
Yep.
completely shielded in that episode. Compare that to
Mm-hmm.
Shauhin. When Shauhin makes a mistake, it is so highlighted. his mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I do think Shauhin is a good player. And that's why it's so
Mm-hmm.
confusing to me why his mistakes are so highlighted. But in the Thomas boot, in the episode where he like was trying to form the alliance with Kamilla, even
Yeah.
I feel like something happened last week. I don't remember what it was. But I feel like when he does make these mistakes, it's very specific. Oh, the Dodo music when he caught Eva. I'm like, Shauhin is getting these Dodo moments, and
Right.
without the Dodo moments, he does seem like he would have a great winner's edit. But I
Mm-hmm.
just I feel like I cannot rectify putting him at like number one when I feel
Right.
like the other three people have been really shielded explicitly, and Shauhin has been explicitly shown to have mistakes.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, the episode where he catches Eva probably should have been edited as her screwing up, right?
Yeah,
Her getting the dodo and him having this great strategic, thoughtful moment if he beats Eva.
yeah,
But I don't think that he does, given on if we're talking Edgic and we're doing our winner rankings, I think that we could be walking into, I agree with you, a scenario where Eva beats Joe. Joe's been showed to have flaws that they're not showing us for Eva in the loyalty and stuff, even though they're basically playing the same game. They're like focusing on those flaws and stuff with Joe. Um, and like Joe's, willing to lose the game for Eva. I think he might at the final or right towards the
mm-hmm.
end. And I think you're right that Shauhin, he's been getting a little bit more of a like manipulative edit, a little bit more of a schemer edit. And like it's a when it's juxtaposed next to Eva and Joe, it doesn't feel like it always feels like he's going to be the first to go of the three when they're talking about them and when they're tossing out names and stuff until recently when they brought up Joe. It's always been Shauhin as someone to be concerned about. Like Kyle was nervous about Shauhin until they kind of linked up to get out David. When David was nervous about Shauhin, I don't think that's going to go away. I think
Yeah,
people are going to be nervous that he's going to make some rumble
mm-hmm.
move and they're going to vote him out. And I think he's going to get like sixth or something.
Mm. Yeah. Uh, I do. I'm a little bit scared to put Shauhin as low as fourth at this point when I feel like everybody's so high on him. And I'm like, I don't want to be like the guy that like messes up by putting Shauhin at fourth still when everyone else figured it out. So I almost, and I might want to change this again next week. I almost might want to put Joe down at fourth because I
Yeah.
felt like this was I feel like last week a little bit, and then this week even more explicitly, we saw people kind of not wanting to vote for Joe on the jury, and I'm starting to
Mm-hmm.
think like even though I think that Joe was playing the best game, uh, I think that I see Joe having a Mike Turner having a coach edit
Yep.
of like
Yep.
he can't pitch himself at the end very well, and he
Mm-hmm.
just loses to one of his allies that people are just slightly less pissed at, like
Right.
Shauhin or Eva or Kyle.
Yeah. Okay. I'm cool with Joe at four. I don't think Joe wins the game. So, I mean, listen, the coach reference was so perfect because we could easily walk into a similar situation here. Big Alliance goes to the end, and all the jury's pissed off at them because they didn't really get a chance to play or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then Joe walks in, he's like, "I played an honorable game." They're like, "Screw you, Joe! I'm not voting for you.
Yeah.
What the hell?" Yeah,
Hey,
I could like, I can't tell you how strongly I feel that he goes to the finals and loses. I just feel so
I
strongly about that,
I
even though
agree at this point.
even though he's got like such a strong edit.
Yeah.
They're going to get to the end. He's going to be like, "I'm loyal," and Eva's going to be like, "I'm loyal, and I found two advantages." And
Yeah, and then I'm just gonna vote for Eva. I want to say shout out to Kate in the comments that for many weeks has been making the comparison of Eva and Joe to Sophie and Coach, and I was like, this
Mm,
was the week that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like
yeah,
pretty sold that that feels like where it's going for me.
yeah. I feel pretty strong about that too. I'm with you. I still think Eva's my number one. We can disagree on Kyle versus Shauhin, to me, Kyle's fourth or first.
Let's just put Eva at number one.
Yeah.
We'll jump the gun on that. I don't really have much else to say. I just talked about it with Joe. I just feel like Eva's had a really good edit. She's been shielded consistently. It just feels like that's where it's going to me. Now for Kyle and Shauhin, I'm very torn up because I feel like they both have really good edits, and yet they both have like one major flaw in their edit. Kyle not being on the complex tribe, Shauhin getting these dodo moments for no reason.
Yeah.
So it's really tough on which way to go.
It's so hard to rank them when we already know who won. So it's like,
oh, of course.
We already know it's Eva, so it doesn't really matter who's doing it.
We already figured it out. It's at the top of the list. So
I think for me, I would have Kyle above Shauhin, but I think it really could go either way. I don't see Kyle I cannot fathom Kyle getting a place other than 1, 4, or 5.
Mm.
I can fathom Shauhin getting a 6. I can fathom Shauhin getting a 2.
That's true. That's a good point. I think the one situation I could see for Kyle, and I threw this out as like a random thought one week, and then I thought maybe that is possible, is like Kyle and Eva are the two confessional front runners at this point. I'm like, could they be kind of like a Charlie and Kenzie, that they're like, the two front runners that are both at the end, and it's like, oh, which way is it gonna go? And then he gets second place to Eva.
Okay.
Like maybe I don't like super see it, but it's possible. I want to put Shauhin at 2.
The only concern I have for Kyle is if this edit of him and Kamilla ends up being something that like he overextends and like syncs with her type of ending.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen. I just that is on my radar.
Okay. You know what? Let's play a little game, for a hypothetical game for a moment. Looking at the jury. So far, we've got a few of them, and then like hypothetical jury members of we don't know who it's going to be. But like, would Kyle get the votes against any of the 3 loggies at the end?
I think he would get Kamilla for sure. Probably David, who will probably vote better. Potentially Mary. I don't know. You might be right that like he gets beat by a loggy, even if I'm just trying to pay attention.
I think he could beat Joe.
Yeah, he could beat Joe.
But I think like in terms of like even Shauhin, I feel like if a loggy's on the jury, we're not counting Star basically, but the other, like if it's Eva at the end and Joe and Shauhin are both on the jury, they're both voting for Eva over Kyle, I think, certainly. And I think no matter whatever combination of that, I think is true. I don't think, we can include Star in that. We didn't see Star have a connection with Kyle at all.
No. I think she'd probably vote for Eva.
Yeah, I think she probably would vote for
But she might vote for Kyle over Shauhin. This is an interesting exercise because what's Kyle's pitch at the end if he gets there? It's probably dependent on him making a move with Kamilla because he's been keeping his connection with her so secret. So it's probably like a final 6 or a final 5 move that skyrockets him.
That's true.
And then he
has to make a move.
I don't think he wins going to the end with those guys.
Yeah.
I think Kyle could beat Joe. I think maybe Kyle makes the move on Shauhin or something, and wins, because no one's going to get credit for Mitch or Kamilla going or Mary going. No one's going to be like, "Oh, I'm voting for you because of that." But if he were to make a move on Shauhin, and they keep making this narrative that someone's going to make a move on Shauhin and it's going to be impactful. Mm-hmm. I could see that being like Kyle, Kamilla, Mitch, who's still around, like just scurried past one more elimination, and then they take out like Eva or Joe or something, maybe Eva or Joe. has an advantage that goes well. I don't know.
Well, now uh, Eva has the uh, safety without power that expires next
Eva's
week.
so locked right now. She's so locked. She's
She's so
got
yeah.
There's 7 people left. She has advantages to escape 2 of the tribals to get down to 5. So she only needs to survive 1 more vote, and she's guaranteed Final 4 fire making.
Yeah. Uh, but I think in terms of making a move, if she uses the safety without power and she gets sent back to camp, that's 1 less vote for the majority alliance. Now,
Yeah.
it would still require Kyle actively flipping because then it's a 3-3 in that scenario. Mm-hmm. But I like maybe it's more justified. Maybe Kyle can be like if he wants to vote out Shauhin at 7, he could be like, Joe, I'm so sorry. I did not think we should go to rocks there. I was too scared to go to rocks for Shauhin.
Right. Yeah, I can see
Maybe.
it. I don't know. It's hard. I think that the 2 and 3 are pretty dicey.
I'm gonna put Shauhin at 2, just because everyone seems so in on Shauhin, so I don't want to be like left out of the train.
I'm making my case now. Leave a comment if I was right and you're watching this after the fact.
I posted a post on Reddit asking for like what are like the fandom names for the supporters of all the players left, and no one named one for Kyle. No one had one. I had like the Eva Believas, the Shauhin Devarmi, it was the Kamilla, Mitch's bitches.
Kamilla.
Like the Joe, not Jover yet. But Kyle had nothing.
Listen, Kyle's good at Survivor, but he's bad at branding.
Yeah. So if you're a Kyle supporter, whatever your name is, let us know your name and tell us if
I'm
if
part
Carson's
of the Kyle
right.
cult. I'll start it right now. The Kyle cult.
The Kyle cult.
Yeah.
Okay. My idea. I thought of the Kyle High Club maybe.
Oh God.
Try to think of things that rhyme with Kyle. It's difficult. But
style.
Harry Kyles. I don't know. What's a phrase with style in it?
What do they call the Harry Styles fans?
Oh, I don't know. They could be called I don't know. The stylists. They could be the Kyleists.
The Kyle. There's got to be a name for Harry Styles fans. What? And then whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great point. The Directioners is all I can think of.
Unless, of course, it's based off of his first name, Harry, which wouldn't work.
Yeah, the Harryinators. I don't know. But, okay, let's paste that over in our general thing.
Yep.
So that's the ranking. So let's get into predictions. Now, I have what I believe is my prediction boot order for the entire rest of the season and how it plays out. And I have a strong feeling about it. So do you want me to say that first or do you want to go first?
If you've already written yours down, then maybe I'll think about my prediction for a second.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna go with.
Oh. Do you want me to go? Or do you want to go?
I'll go because you already wrote yours down, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like we're on a similar page. I think Eva wins. Joe gets second. Mitch gets third. Kyle gets fourth. And then it's just a matter of when the timing of the Shauhin blindside happens. And I don't think it's this week. So I think we're going to lose Mary. And then, is it at 6 or is it at 5? I think he has to use Kamilla for the narrative to make sense. So I'm going to go Mary and then Shauhin and then Kamilla and then Kyle, Mitch, Joe, Eva.
Wow. Yeah. I'm very close. I'm very close. Man, I would freaking love an Eva, Joe, Mitch final 3 because that's my entire draft team. And holy shit, I would rub that in everyone's faces. I got Mitch dead last pick of the draft. And if I get the entire final 3 with that last pick of the draft, oh man, I would feel good.
See, I in the game that I'm playing, which is a Survivor Eliminator, you pick one per week. I think I win the game if I pick Mary this week and she survives, but I don't know if I can do that if I can take that risk. So
Mm,
yeah.
fair. So I agree. In I and listen, I've been predicting the Mary boot 2 weeks in a row. I hate to do it a third time, but I really think gameplay wise, it just feels like they gotta vote on Mary. Like I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean I don't know how. Like I just said, the one thing that could happen is something crazy happens with the safety without power, and
Yeah.
that creates some kind of blindside. I guess Shauhin would be the most likely recipient of that if that were to happen, but otherwise, yeah, it feels like it should be an easy vote on Mary at 7. I
I could potentially see Mary and Mitch swapping, and Mary being the third place and Mitch being the next boot. But I
mm,
feel much more that it's much more likely that Mitch gets third place, like character edit, and Mary goes here.
okay, yeah, I agree. I don't think Mary's in the final 3 at all, honestly.
Yeah.
Her because like same thing that I was saying about Starth earlier. Mary doesn't even have the edit of like maybe in the final 3. I feel like usually even some of the worst like edited third placers like Ben on 46
Yeah.
at least had like
Yeah.
a fantastic pre-merge and then
Right.
disappeared. But it was still like, well, we can still go back to that pre-merge that like maybe he's got a shot. But Mary's like never had that. Mary's never had one episode that it was like, ooh, Mary's got a shot. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I think Mary at 7. I think, and I mean, this is like maybe a little bit too easy of a prediction based on my prediction is basically the hierarchy of the alliance at this point. I'm putting Mitch at 6. I
Okay.
think that Mitch, I think that, hey, we love 6th place here, Carson. Okay, we love 6th place in this podcast. I think 6th place has a very specific vibe,
Yep.
especially in the new era. I mean, we look at the past few seasons. We have Andy, we have Q, we have, I mean,
Yeah.
Drew was not like the biggest, but he was a very vocal character. I mean, we have Cody back on 43. I think 6th place is often someone that you're meant to like feel a lot of feelings about, whether they're positive or negative. And I feel like Mitch is
Okay.
like that kind of like character. He's not as big of a character in the edit, but I could see him kind of having that 6th place vibe. He's at the bottom of like the 6th alliance at this point, so it would make sense. Um, yeah, and so I could see him going out at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a reasonable take. I think that the way that they edit it normally, it's final five in the finale, right? These
Correct.
days. So they want the sixth place, the penultimate episode, to have like a charged tribal council, and they normally do edit the sixth placer pretty well.
Yeah. So,
Like Shauhin.
well, I'll give my thoughts on your list once I finish my list, so then I can
Yeah.
we can debate. Kamilla, I've been saying for a long time, Kamilla gives me big 5th place energy. I think that
Mhm.
5th place, comparatively to 6th place, is someone that is like a good player, but is kind of under edited. So you're not that surprised when they get clipped right at the end. You look at a
Yeah.
Genevieve, you look at a Mama Julie, uh, who is it? Oh, Maria. Yeah, like I feel like a lot of these people are like they're good players, but they're not like getting the biggest edits because they're like that dragon that just kind of gets sniped at the last moment, and so you're like, yeah, I'm not that surprised that they got taken out at 5th.
Mhm.
And then, so this is my big Final Four theory. I think we've been set up so much on this Kyle versus Shauhin thing that Kyle was supposed to take his shot at Shauhin way back at the final 10 or whatever it was. No, it was even further back than that. And he didn't do it. And it was like, oh, did he miss his shot? Are they still going to take it? Or is it too late now? I think that he missed his shot. And the reason why he missed his shot is that Joe and Eva are going to, one of them is going to win the final challenge. They're going to take the other to the end. And Shauhin is going to face Kyle in firemaking where he beats him. And
Mm.
Kyle goes out at 4. And that's like oh, if I would have just targeted Shauhin earlier, if I would have broken up the loggies, if I could have, won the fire or made it to the end, but
Mhm.
I left in Shauhin just long enough that he could beat me in fire making.
Okay, I think that that's a reasonable take. And then your winner is Eva in that situation, even though Shauhin won fire.
Yes. So then in that situation, I mean, this I think is a bit of a toss up. I think that situation Shauhin could still win. Uh,
We could, yeah.
my prediction would be my gut instinct is Eva, Joe, Shauhin, because I think that Shauhin has been getting that dodo style edit. And it would be surprising for Shauhin to be like a 0 vote or a third placer. But I do think that like I could compare Shauhin's edit a little bit to third placers, like a Jake or like someone that kind of gets these dodo moments that you're like, oh, they could have made a move but they just kind of didn't have it. Whereas Joe, I feel like is really getting the second placer edit of a Mike Turner, of a coach, of like,
Mhm.
oh, they could have got it, but they didn't pitch very well, And then Eva
Mhm.
wins the day, being the third person basically.
Yeah. All right.
However, I have been predicting Mitch as a losing finalist for a while, so I think that honestly, we just flipped Mitch and Shauhin, and I think that what you said makes a lot of sense, and I think that would make a lot of sense too. I do think Shauhin gives me either sixth place energy or somewhere in the finals. I don't
Yeah.
think he's
Mhm.
fifth. I don't. I don't even think he's fourth at this point. Maybe he could lose fire, kind of like a teeny, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
I don't super see him in seventh place either.
No,
Um,
I don't think he goes next week. I think the more we talk about it, I can't take the risk and pick Mary for my eliminator.
we figured it out too much. We deduced it all.
Exactly. Yeah, we mapped it out.
Yeah, I feel like that's a
He's
pretty
Zoto.
good map for the rest of the season. I feel like we were
Yeah.
pretty much on a very similar pages here.
Yeah.
Um, I would.
We tend to be. Great minds.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, I feel like that's super good. I'm trying to think of any other like predictions or like possibilities. Um, I do think that you know a lot of people put a lot of weight into that like Kyle missing his shot on Shauhin thing, and like it's got to come to a head at some point in some way. You are predicting they take out Shauhin. I'm predicting Shauhin takes out Kyle. I think a lot of people have like read that as, oh, that's got to mean Shauhin's gonna win, and I'm like, not necessarily. I just think that it means it could go a lot of ways. It's gonna come to a head, but it
Mhm.
could still mean Shauhin loses. He just beats Kyle, or it could just mean that
Right.
Kyle eventually snipes Shauhin. Uh, so I mean, I do think that it would make sense for in my scenario for Shauhin to win at the end, but I don't think it's like necessary based on the way the stories have been
Mhm.
crafted.
Yeah. 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 I could see it. I could see it, but I'm standing on my prediction.
Okay. Well, I mean, listen. We'll see what happens at sixth place.
Yeah.
That's our one crossroad. We're flipping Mitch.
Been
I
a
like
couple
that.
of a couple of weeks
If
until
it's
then
Mitch or
because we haven't seen Mary
Shauhin, we,
yet.
we got it. We figured out the
I
rest.
will text you if it's between the two of them at 6. I'll text you
That would
and
be
we can
really funny.
figure
It's like, oh my gosh, like the tension here.
it out.
um, yeah. Anything else that you disagree with me on, or any other Edgic reads or takes that we haven't talked about yet?
I brought them up as they popped into my head, North. I think that it's just really cool to see all of the Edgic together and how it has grown throughout the season. I love looking at your contender rankings and how they change. So um, stay strong. Don't follow the road of many and
Yeah,
just believe that Shaheen's going to win just because everyone else is predicting
yeah.
it. We actually know what we're talking about. We're actual pros.
Eva
So,
Believers, unite.
Eva Believers
We've got this.
and Kyle Colt members.
It's in the Kyle called, newly named. So, All right. Well, if we don't have anything else to say, then that's all we have. Carson, thank you so much for being here. It's been a blast. You've been a fantastic guest. It's been really fun. I felt like with Josiah, I had a lot of pushback, and then this time it was really fun to get someone to come on that like we almost agreed on everything, and it was great. Like
the difference between me and Josiah is I like Survivor. I don't know. A couple of years ago, Josiah stopped liking Survivor and he kept watching it.
Yeah,
I love Josiah. Me and Josiah are like good friends.
I think just to touch one more time on like the season as a whole, I think it depends a lot on your preference. I think that dominating gameplay leads to boring votes, generally speaking. And I think you look at, I don't think I've said this. Stop me if I'm retracing steps, but I look at like winners like Rob and like Kim. Did I say this already?
Yeah. No, you didn't, but I agree.
Like Rob and Kim are like these beloved winners that really dominated their seasons, but like their seasons are like not well liked. They're really not liked seasons in the consensus of the people, and so I think that this season is like with these dominating games, it really comes down to how much you like the people that are dominating, which in this is particularly Joe and Eva, and I guess like Shauhin to an extent, and how much you can still enjoy the supporting characters. I think like on Redemption Island, there was like 2 characters outside of Rob that I liked. Like I liked Philip and Andrea, and that was maybe it. I liked Stephanie Valencia that was voted out in the pre-merge, and that was about it. So last season don't like too much, but this season was like I feel like I still like a lot of these supporting characters, even if it's easy votes. I'm still having fun with Mitch. I'm still having fun with Kamilla. Just because it's a dominant game doesn't mean that you can't still enjoy just like a more laid back, fun season. And I think that this season we've got to see a lot more of these moments of laughter and Mitch telling these funny postman stories and them throwing stuff at each other and singing and we've just got to see more like just kind of fun camp moments because the gameplay is opened wide for that. And so I think that I still think it's I don't think it's the worst season of the new era. I don't even know if it is worse than 43, and I don't like 43. But I think that it's not that bad. What do you think?
41's the worst.
Yes, 41 is the worst. Absolutely. Oh my god!
And it's not the cast's fault. It's not the cast's fault. It's just
it's a lot of reasons. Yeah, the boot order in that season devastated me. We lost Brad and JD in the pre-merge. Like, oh my god!
I saw a tweet the other day that had like the 4 worst tribes of the new era, and they were like, "Let's bring them all back." Exact same tribes and see which one's actually the worst, and I would watch the crap.
It was like Uwa versus Lulu versus whatever this one was called, Vula, something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like unfortunately, I feel like sometimes like the disaster tribe is like, oh, I'm cool with this. These people can go, and then sometimes it's like, no, that's actually the best tribe. I feel like Uwa, and I feel like shoot, what was the purple tribe in 46?
Oh yeah.
I feel like those 2 tribes were both like, oh, that's actually like by far my favorite tribe of the season, and I'm like
big
really
Banu
sad
fan over here.
Yeah, hey, I'll stand up for Banu. I thought he was a great character. We lost Jess, we lost Zelensky. Come on, legends only. So, anyways, chin up. My point. Chin up. So, thank you, Carson. It's been fun. Thank you for agreeing with me. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We're going to be back next week talking about episode 11. We'll see. Maybe we'll have a big shakeup. Maybe we won't. But we're getting pretty close to the end of the season here, so we're chugging along, making some great Edgic analysis for you. And it's been fun. If you disagree with anything that me or Carson said, or you agree with anything that the small things we did disagree on, let us know. We want to know. Type us in the comments. Really appreciate it. Give us what your fan base name is. I don't think Mary got a name either, but no one thinks Mary's going to win. But if you do, what's your name?
Mother Mary.
The Mother Mary?
She called She called herself Mother Mary. Yeah.
Well, she's Mother Mary. What's her disciples called? That's the question.
Oh.
Up for you to decide. You decide. So, anyways, see you all next time. I've been North. This has been Carson. Thanks for watching. Stay frosty, y'all.